The professor was sitting alone in the library that afternoon, quietly reading an old book. Rain tapped gently against the windows, filling the room with a peaceful sound. A few minutes later, the door opened. Aiden walked into the library with a warm smile on his face. He had a backpack over his shoulder, but his hands were empty. There was a quiet excitement in his eyes. Took off his backpack and placed it beside his chair. Then he sat across from his old teacher. At first, Aiden was still smiling. He looked like someone who had come to share good news. The professor closed his book and looked at him with curiosity. Aiden took a small breath and began talking about the books he had written. He told his professor that he had recently finished 2 books. Writing them had taken months of his life. There had been many late nights, countless pages, and moments when he almost wanted to give up. But he had finished them, and now he wanted to take the next step. He wanted to see his books published. Aiden explained that he had traveled to the city a few weeks earlier, hoping to find a publisher who would give his work a chance. At first, he had been excited. He imagined seeing his name printed on the cover of his book. He imagined holding it in his hands for the first time. But things didn't go the way he had imagined. The first publisher rejected his manuscript. Aiden told himself that it was okay. Maybe it simply wasn't the right publisher. So he tried another one. That publisher rejected it too. Still, Aiden didn't give up. He visited one more publishing house. This time, he waited patiently and hoped things would be different. But they didn't even finish reading his manuscript. They simply told him that they weren't interested. As Adon told his professor about what had happened, the smile that had been on his face slowly disappeared. His voice became quieter. The excitement in his eyes faded. He looked down at the floor for a moment. Then he finally admitted what had been bothering him. He was beginning to wonder if maybe he wasn't good enough to become a writer. The professor listened without interrupting. He could see that Adon wasn't only asking about publishing a book. He was asking whether he should continue believing in his dream. After a few moments of silence, the professor leaned back in his chair. Then he smiled gently. He told Aiden that many years ago, he had been in exactly the same position. When the professor was young, he had written his first book. Back then, he had no famous name, no connections, and no one waiting for his work. He had simply had a story in his heart and a dream in his mind. He believed that finishing the book would be the hardest part, but he soon discovered that getting someone to believe in his story was even harder. So he moved to the city. He carried his manuscript from one publishing house to another. He spent days walking through crowded streets, waiting outside offices, and hoping that someone would finally say yes. But most people said no. One even told him that he should forget about becoming a writer and find a more practical career. Those words stayed with him for a long time. There were nights when he returned to his small room, feeling completely defeated. He would place his manuscript on the table and wonder if he had been foolish to believe in himself. But there was one person who never doubted him: his mother. Whenever he came home after another rejection, she would sit beside him and listen. She never told him that success would be easy. Instead, she always reminded him of one simple thing. Eventually, a small publisher believed in the professor's story and gave him a chance. His book was published, and years later, he became a successful writer. But he never forgot the days when everyone had told him no. He looked at Aiden and smiled.
A rejection doesn't mean your story isn't good. It just means you haven't found the right person yet.
Keep believing in yourself, even when nobody else does, the professor said. Aiden smiled, picked up his backpack, and thanked his professor. Then he walked out of the library with a happy smile on his face. For the first time in weeks, he wasn't afraid of rejection. He was ready to try again. And this time, he believed in himself.